Hey, everybody. Today we're going to talk about talking, if that makes sense. We're going to talk about talking because we want to talk about competitors and if our competitors are bad mouthing us in the field. And so I had a gentleman from Australia who I was talking to. His name I'm not going to share his name. I'm going to say his name is Wesley, and he's from Western Australia. How's that? Wesley from Western Australia. So what would that be? Perth? I could say Pete from Perth. I really don't want to share people's names, but this gentleman's name is Wesley. Great Aussie accent, great rugby fan, great guy. But he was talking about competition. And let me point back. How did I meet Wesley? Because I'm sitting here and he's sitting way over there. Well, he's part of the Contractor Strategy Group, which is a Facebook group that contractors join to have more conversations like this. So that's how I get into these very, very interesting conversations about the challenges people are having in the field. Anyways, one of the challenges he has is that one of his competition, and I'm going to say he's in the plumbing business, one of his competition is bad mouthing him to other homeowners. And so he's like, well, what do I do about that? They're really knocking us hard, and we're having to sell against that. And so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to teach you what to say when a competitor is talking bad about you in the market. I'm also going to aim this episode so that those of you who are business owners can actually ask the technicians on your team, if you've got people on your team who are going to homeowners and selling jobs, then you feel free to use this as a training tool. So welcome to those of you who have been invited here by the owner of the company. Everybody on this podcast or listening to the podcast is a construction professional. We're professionals in our trades, and we're here to learn more about how to do business better and serve our clients better. So thanks for joining us here. Please view this as a training session on how you can serve your clients better and set their minds at ease when somebody's bad-mouthing you in the field. Okay, so with that, I'll get started. So for this exercise, I'd better come up with a company name. They are, the guy's name is Danny. Guy's name is Danny. That's our competitor's name, and it's a plumbing company. So let's say it's a plumbing company down the pipe. There you go. Danny from Down the Pipe is our competitor. By the way, if anybody who's listening to this has a company named Down the Pipe or your name is Danny, I apologize. It's just a funny coincidence. So there you go. So the competitor's name is Danny, Down the Pipe. Our company, we're Ace Plumbing. Ace Plumbing. That's who you are. Ace Plumbing. I can already see the logo for that. It looks like a superhero. All right. So you and I are Ace Plumbing, and the guy who's given us grief in the field and talking badly about us to our clients is Danny from Down the Pipe. Now, let me point out first before we start that if somebody's speaking negatively about you in the field, if they're bad-mouthing you, it's actually because they're scared of you. So it's a good thing, because otherwise they wouldn't bring you up with a client at all. But when you hear the question from the client, and this is what you're going to hear, Mrs. Smith or Mr. Lopez or Chang is going to say, I was talking to somebody else in the industry, and they said, got to watch out because everybody else is a scoundrel. That's an Aussie word if I ever heard it. Scoundrel, right? And they don't have good equipment. None of their people are trained. They mistreat their customers. They try to take shortcuts, and they always try to rake you over the coals with the billing. So now you've heard that. How are you going to respond, right? So instead of worrying about the perfect thing to say, just be a nice person. And so the point here for talking about our competitors is when we talk about our competitors, we're always positive, but we're vague. That's it. It's just bland, positive and vague. So when somebody asks me that question, hey, I heard you guys are scoundrels, you take shortcuts, you're not well trained, then I'm just going to come back and very calmly say, well, it's interesting you heard that. I've never heard of the company you're talking about, but I'm also not going to talk about any of my competitors. They're all good. They have to be good. We're all government certified and regulated, and in many cases, the work we do has to get permitted and inspected. So the government's looking over our shoulder with everything we do. So I'm not going to talk about them, but can I talk about us? Now the homeowner's going to say, yeah, tell me about you. You say, well, here's what I know about us, and I don't know anything about anybody else. But with us, we've got 4 steps that we have to follow. And I actually really like this. It's one of the reasons I came to work for this company. Number 1, I don't start by getting on the tools. I start by asking you questions and then listening just really carefully. I mean, this is your house, your home, right? So I'm going to ask you a bunch of questions, and I'm going to listen very carefully for what the problem is. And we're going to figure it out as best we can here before I go crawling under the house to try and fix anything. Okay? And then number two, before we start, we're going to talk about time, like when this can be done, how long we think it's going to take. We'll talk about price, because you probably have a question about what a service call like this costs. We'll talk about possible problems. You've got a house here, what is it, 35 or 40 years old? I deal with houses like this all day long, all year long. And so there's some things that happen in houses like this. And if we encounter them, I'll let you know. If we don't, you don't have to worry about it. But sometimes we encounter those things, termites, mold, whatever, right? And then permits. You might have a question if the work we're going to do needs permits. So before we do anything, I'm going to have a conversation with you where you can ask me all sorts of questions about any of those things. And then, is that okay, Mrs. Smith? And she's going to say, yeah, this is great. Tell me more. I say, well, then, just so you know, when we're done, we want to be done. You want us done, and we want to be done. And so what we call quality control is really important to us, because we've driven out here, you've stopped your day, you're baking these great cookies. Obviously, somebody's got to eat those cookies. You don't want me sliding underneath the house again because something that you thought got fixed didn't get fixed. So quality control is very important. And then the fourth thing, the final thing, is that we bill you as promised, because I'm going to be talking to you throughout. I'm going to take a look at what the issue is today. I'm going to give you an estimate. If that estimate has to change because of something in the house or something that's happening structurally, we'll have to let you know that. Okay. And then the final thing is because of COVID, here's our PPE policy. Here's what we do to make sure that we're healthy and safe and you're healthy and safe. Do you have any questions? And then Mrs. Smith says, no, you seem great. And go ahead, you got the agreement. You've got a new client, probably a new client for life. You see, because Danny from down the pipe did nothing but make himself look bad. He made himself look small and mean-spirited. And you look, well, like I said, Ace Plumbing. The logo I see in my mind for Ace Plumbing is a superhero. And so all you've got to do is be polite and positive but vague about any competition, and you will crush them every single time, because they have brought themselves under the microscope, not you. Anyways, I hope you like that. It's a very simple angle we're going to take here. You might be thinking I'm only going to talk about more, more 2021 on every episode. We're not going to do that. Obviously, I've got lots of great guests coming on. But I hope you take this training piece and give it to your team. And for those of you who are already listening as part of a team, I'm glad the leadership and the ownership of your company believes enough in training to put you through something like this and have you listen to it and learn best practices from really around the world. So thanks very much for listening, folks. I really appreciate it, and I hope you enjoyed this episode. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.